What's going on, guys? It is Laser here with another weekend video analysis. In today's video, we're going to actually predict where we see Nio going into next week. We're going to unpack what happened last week. We're going to talk about the broad market, and we're going to look a little bit more closely into the Dixie and the Hang Seng to get some hints to see where we actually see Nio going into next week. Having said that, just realize this, I'm just a guy who loves charting the stock. I love charting Nio. I love dropping my analysis, but it's just my opinion. I might be wrong, and I was actually wrong 2 weeks ago. So please do your own due diligence and seek a professional if you're looking to make, a really big financial decision. Having said that, there are a couple things that I want to quickly address before we dive into the TA and we look into the broad market, which I think is going to be very important for this video. Two things. Number one, just a quick PSA. If you got nothing nice to say and it's nasty, just keep it to yourself. If you've never learned growing up as a kid, it goes very unappreciative. Nobody appreciates, getting like nasty comments. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. We can be grown-ups and you can actually just say, hey, I don't think you're right. I think it's this. I mean, there's a right way of doing it. If you wouldn't say that to my face, if you met me in real life and you're going to get nasty, you shouldn't do it also on the internet. We're grown-ups, we're adults, and it's hurtful to actually get those comments, because when you put in all this time and effort and then you just got someone just saying, you suck, or they go out of your way to just say something nasty, just don't do it. And it's not just from me, it's a PSA for all people out there that are actually putting out. I know there's the FinTwit community, which is amazing. A lot of people out there are putting out great content where you can actually learn and get your analysis from. It's okay to disagree with them, and it's okay to have a different opinion. It's not okay to be nasty, and just don't do it. Please don't do that. And I believe in free speech. I believe everybody should be able to say what they want, and everyone's allowed to say what they want. But again, we're grown-ups. Everyone here should be grown-ups and adults. You should start acting like adults. I hate that I even had to say that, but it must be said because it's Twitter and it's the internet. Anyways, I digress. I don't want to continue on that. Number two, market psychology, stress. Without kind of diving deep, if you have a trading strategy and trading approach, you need to factor in stress. Stress is the #1 killer in North America. If you don't have the right mindset and the right approach to trading, and you're constantly needing reassurance on a day-to-day basis based off the day-to-day price action, you're probably feeling a lot of stress. Oh my God, Nio is down this today. What should we do? And now it's up. What should we do? It's fine, but don't let that overconsume you. That used to be me. I used to get stressed out, actually, and it's not good. It does a massive toll to your body in secret. It's a secret killer. Don't let that do that. In fact, there's so many different ways you can go about trading. Trade your own plan, have your own trading strategy. But I will tell you, based off my experience in my trading career, the best philosophy that I've seen from many traders and the most successful traders are the ones that actually learn to manage and minimize their stress. You don't want to stress. And it's usually your long-term investors that don't stress over the day-to-day or even week-to-week price action. They have their price target set like $10, $20, $100, and they ain't going to worry about what Nio is doing in between. Whether it goes up that week or down that week, they don't care. They have their price target set. They wait till it hits their price target, and that's it. That's the bottom line. And they're likely going to be the only investors when Nio does hit those price targets to be in that position to capitalize on it. Now, maybe you are swing trading and trying to time the tops and bottoms. There's a chance you might mistime that, or there's a chance you might, maybe you don't miss it. Maybe you are holding a stock and you were kind of swing trading it along the way. But I can tell you, when you get to $10 or 20 or 100 or whenever Nio gets to those price targets, you would have undertaken a crap ton of stress. And it wouldn't be worth it. Trust me, you can age yourself and you can get sick. If you want a long trading career and a long investing career, please factor that in, your stress and trading career. And sometimes the best approach is just buy, hold, and don't worry about those swings and sit on your price targets. I'm not telling you to do that, but based off what I've seen, I believe that's the right approach if you're factoring in stress and if you care about your personal health. Now, I wanted to address those two things. Let's unpack a little bit as to what happened last week and where we currently are with Nio. And because I'm still not too sure where Nio is going, I'm going to lean a little bit more into my analysis on the Dixie and the Hang Seng. Dixie being very concerning, being at 102.48, and Hang Seng as well, really overextended. So I'm going to talk about that. And again, please don't hate me if I get my analysis wrong. I'm going to try and paint out two scenarios, but I'm going to give you my lean and my direction as to where I think Nio is truly going. And we got the last 4 out of the 5 weeks correct, so 80% right. Am I going to maintain 80? Am I going to go higher? I mean, we're going to try and get it right, but I might get it wrong. And don't get mad at me for this week if I get it wrong. Just realize when I give you my thesis and I tell you where Nio is going to be going, I'm going to be giving you a reason as to why, and I'll drop my thesis. There's a reason for it. It's not just going to be like, you know, what do they call it? They call it horoscopes or what do they call that? Fortune telling. I'm literally going to drop a little bit of TA and analysis and share why I believe it's going one way or the other. So let's unpack what happened last week real quick here. I don't want to take too long here, but we broke back below the trend here. And I like to call this your short trend line. Below the trend line, it's scary, you know, because it's now you lose your bullish setup. And that doesn't mean it's game over for Nio. It could just mean that it's a bear trap, right? It could very well mean that you have kind of what you have going on here is a bear trap. It'll break back above and you'll get that squeeze. If you're a bull and you want to see Nio squeeze, you want it to go above this trend line, little tap below, and explode and boom. That's it. It's plain and simple. That's exactly what you want to see if you're a bull. And even if you are a bull, you got to realize it might come up to this trend line, reject, and give you a much bigger pullback. It's a possibility. And as far as how far it's going to pull back, the most obvious spot is usually that golden pocket. 511 is where that is. Now, I'm going to tell you where I think it's going to be going this week, but first I'm going to unpack a little bit into the velocity, and then I'm going to unpack where I actually see going where the Hang Seng currently is and where the Dixie is currently is. And this is important for everybody to unpack and understand. So they'll actually understand where my analysis is coming from. We're still trading below on the hourly and on the 2 hours now. We actually broke back below. Actually, go regular trading. We broke back below on the 2 hours and the 1 hour. Not a good look. I don't ever really, I usually don't really like when it's below here. I start getting bearish once we're below there, and we've broken back below. Now, there is some good news on the velocity on that 15 minutes time frame. Since the original breakdown from the gap up to 780, it's finally broken back above on 15 minutes. So very short term, I believe next week there's room for upside. But that upside might very much be limited just right up into the trend line. Okay, it could run. Well, how much of a rally would that be? That would be a 10-11% up back up into like 750, and it could break back lower. You might not even get potentially that retest right away. It might go lower before actually finally giving you that retest as well. Another option is it goes lower and then comes and decides to give that retest and then comes back. That would be kind of like vicious and brutal, but all of those are on the table. Now, based off what I see on the 15 minutes, in my opinion, I think it's getting ready to run up and test the top of that trend line. You could see it's kind of like coiling here, and it's getting ready to move up. And towards the end of the day, actually on Friday, it gave you a little bit of an upwards move. It looks like it wants to test the top side here of that trend line. It's getting so messy here, so let me just delete this. I have some concerns going into next week, some pretty major concerns. Now, it might be nothing, but I'm here to share this with you. So on the 2 hours, what's concerning is it did break here. And I'm a firm believer, you can draw trend lines all across everywhere, but I'm a firm believer that would signal and represent the price being supported below here. That's my belief. I wouldn't. It's not always, because it could swing back above. Could be fake out. Could be a bear trap. We won't know as the time unfolds. And the 15 minutes is showing a lot of promise here with it breaking out on that 200-day moving average. But I'm not here to pump the stock and give you guys hopium. I want to unpack real quick here something very concerning that I saw on the Dixie. I didn't even realize it, but it made that really, really big move on Friday where it spiked up, and it didn't just spike up. It did something kind of little, it's spooking me out a little. As you can see, I don't know if I drew this right. Actually, I didn't. We're going to use the magnet to really just, because I'm a little bit spooked out about this. Extend to the right. Let's see. So as you could see, I'm going to zoom out on a bigger time frame. And you can't quite see the candles, but on the hourly, this looks like it wants to explode higher. It's got a long setup on the Dixie. And the Dixie, if you guys don't already know what that Dixie is, that's the US dollar. Okay? That's the strength of that US dollar. It went from 100 up to 102, which is pretty significant. But the most significant thing is that it's broken out above. And if this gives you a little bounce, you could get an explosive move to the upside on the Dixie, which would be very bearish for everything China, for everything USA, everything. US equities, you do not want to see the US dollar climb. When it climbs, this is when China and also USA and the equity market is not good. When the US dollar, when money starts pooling into the US dollars, we enter into more of a risk off environment. Now, this ain't a for sure deal, but the setup is there. It's got a beautiful setup if you're long on the US dollar. For those that are looking at this and thinking, oh my God, the US dollar might go higher, from an institutional investor, or from a smart money perspective, sitting on US dollars and cash wouldn't be a bad strategy, as you would actually, your dollars are going to start going up and not down. And I've been talking about this week after week and hoping that you would get that retest and it would break down lower, but it broke back above, which isn't the best look. And it's certainly going to play a role in the US market and also the American market. The US market and the Chinese market, which impacts Nio. Another thing, it's not the end of the world. This is probably the promising thing. I don't want to be doom and gloom, but I did want to share with you another thing. Okay. We're still above this trend line. Good. It broke below the 200-day moving average. We need to unpack the last time we had a really big rally and broke below the 200-day moving average just to get an idea for price action. And the last time we had a really big move, I would argue would be this. And when you broke below the 200-day moving average, it gave you that consolidation before exploding higher. So there's some potential good news here. But when this rally was finished, pretty much it ended right there when it cracked below and gave us that confirmation the momentum shifted to the bears. And so if you get like a red week to start off, that could mean the start of a bigger pullback on Hang Seng. Now, overall, I think it's, if you look at the macro picture, extremely bullish looking candle. And it's above the high, which could mean way more higher. But as I've said, and I've said many, many times, the best long entry is always on the bottom of a trend line. Okay? And this is, think of this like your return to medium trend. And if it does want to pull back, that would be your next spot that you would want to be watching for your next long entry into the Hang Seng entry. And it could signal, when I'm looking at that, where the Dixie stands, it could be we're reaching kind of nearing a top, and we get a pullback. This doesn't mean it's the end of the rally. This just could mean it's a pullback before it pushes way higher. So you can get something like that. But I'm not feeling so hot about Nio going into next week. Based off what I see from a velocity standpoint of view, 15 minutes looks bullish, and it looks like it wants to run higher. The 1 hour and 2 hours, I don't like that look. It's starting to actually show weakness. And when you look at this whole rally on Nio, it hasn't given us like a really big pullback. Even here, you haven't gotten that significant pullback. From the top to bottom, our golden pocket's right around 510. And that could very well likely be where it could take us into Nio. It's a possibility. Now, in validation, and so I think, again, don't hate me. Remember the PSA that I told you. If you got nothing nasty to say, you don't agree with me, that's cool. But I'm in the bearish camp. I'm starting to get bearish here. And it's not anything in particular that I'm seeing in Nio that's making me super bearish. It's more what I'm seeing in the Dixie that's getting me kind of a little bit spooked out. This right here is spooky. And we saw, and if you've been watching my videos, you saw, and you've been watching my calls, you saw what happens when you get the break back above the retest. You get the squeeze. You don't want the Dixie to squeeze. That's going to mean, pain ahead for the entire stock market. And the momentum is not there for the bulls yet. And on that 2 hour time frame, take a look at this. Until we get a break above, I'm not convinced that this breakdown is yet finished. So that's my call out going into next week. Nio will rise a bit and reject off the trend line. If it gives you that rejection off the trend line, you might get that run into 7. I mean, if it happened early on Monday, 740, 750. And if the Hang Seng breaks down and if the Dixie goes up, this is going to have a driving force on the future direction price action of Nio. Ultimately, this doesn't change anything other than that this would actually be the start of our first pullback, major pullback. It doesn't change anything for my long-term price targets. And I talked about like trading strategy and stress. So if you're trying to manage stress, you should be not allowing these little fluctuations in price. Mind you, we haven't reached even the first one. I think it's supposed to be like 840 if I did it perfect. Yeah. And 992. And I do believe it will eventually go there, but there might be a little bit of pain. And I think going into next week, there is going to be some pain. The only way I would flip from bullish to bearish, straight from bearish to bullish, is if we get back above. Let's unpack that again, guys, so that you guys are all on the same page going into next week. For Nio, it'll be crucial for Nio, so crucial for it to go back above. And it'll be crucial for Dixie to break down. And you're going to want to see continuation on the Hang Seng, like more. And those are all possibilities. Now, if you're sitting on the sidelines and you've got cash to deploy or dollar cost average, or just maybe you're looking at Nio now because it's getting a lot of hype and you're wanting to try to join in and you saw that it's pulled back a bit, the safest long entry is going to be after it reclaims and gets back above the trend line. That's your safest long entry. We did get a risky long entry as you can see here. Oh, and I wanted to talk about this too. The parallel channel. I did it wrong. Gotta zoom in here. Let's do 2 hours. 2 hours will be easier to do it. I apologize. Should have been able to do this a little bit faster. Pretty close. Why did that look weird? Wait, what is happening? What the heck's it doing? Why is it doing that? I don't know why it's doing that. I'm trying to clone this. Hang on. There we go. And you can see you got a bounce here. You got a bounce here. Now, another thing to keep in mind, and when it comes to Nio, when you're trading Nio, you're not trading the Hang Seng. You're trading kind of like a derivative of the Hang Seng. It could diverge. There's still hope. It could go back up while the Hang Seng pulls back and the Dixie gets scary. You could have one of those situations where Nio runs, but the odds are against Nio right now, currently. And I love what I see on the daily time frame. It made a higher high, but it's time for it to make a lower low. It could do something like that. So there's my call out going into next week. And I gotten so much shit for being wrong, like on the last time I'm gonna do it, but I'm not afraid to actually just drop my analysis and say it. I think Nio might have a little bit of room for upside on Monday or Tuesday, but overall the week will finish off flat. I will tweet throughout the week if I see anything change. Please keep an eye on this trend line. If it breaks back above, I'm changing my stance to bullish. And it's a very simple trading strategy and trading approach. You go below, you should lean bearish and be careful. You go above, it's time to get bullish, right? But there is going to be that risky entry we did get that risky entry here. I tweeted about it. And you can even go something like that. I think it's looking like it's getting ready. And the reason why I think it's like, look on the 15-minute, the shorter time frames, it's showing the momentum is slowly shifting here. But I have to also consider what's going on with the Dixie. And this is the most scariest thing. Because if it doesn't do that and does this, there's nothing that'll stop everything from bleeding. Not just Nio. It'll be the entire stock market will be red. Not a crash red, but like bigger pullback. But having said that, that wraps up my video. I hope you guys found that very useful. So going into next week, I am going to say that early on in the week, price goes up, maybe to retest around 740, 750 at the top of that trend line, and then it gives you that major significant pullback. I'm going to be watching the Dixie very closely. I might even tweet about that to see what's going to happen, and that's pretty much going to confirm my thesis as to going into next week. It's a very significant role. And it's why it's on my watch list. So it's all eyes are technically on the Dixie going into Monday and Tuesday. If you enjoyed my video, don't forget to give me the thumbs up, subscribe to my video. I do a weekly video every single week, let me know in the comment section below, where do you see Nio going? Are you in the same ballpark as me? You think it's going to give you a bigger pullback? Are you a little bit concerned? Or do you think I'm just wrong and I should just go pound sand and, Nio's going to the moon? Let me know in the comments. I want to know. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for supporting my videos, guys. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Cheers and take care.